Okay, well, it was an emotional and physical collapse. That's what it was. So, and this is something that really only required like 2 weeks of rest. Basically, I was working 22-hour days promoting, traveling around the world, doing sometimes 20 interviews a day. So the focus it requires to sit here and talk to you, I'd have to do that like 20 times a day with people from all over the world that would fly in. And it's so depleting and exhausting. Then they'd say, now we have a photo shoot. Go take pictures. I'd had it before, but I was on a new label because I had finally gotten away from the first label where I was, which I had a lot of success there, but it was very difficult to have those personal ties. It got to a point it was like, gotta go. And then divorced, and while divorced, being there was very, very difficult because people that worked there didn't know whether they were supposed to be nice to me, whether they were supposed to like my music, whether they were supposed to hate me. Pressure had been building for a very long time, and my whole thing is you hit it dead on and you keep going. But at a certain point, when you're also with a new label and a new situation, and I was working a soundtrack, which was something different than an album. You know what I mean? You have all these other deadlines that you have to deal with the movie companies. Yeah, and so I'm dealing with that. And I was dealing with so much business stuff that I hadn't had to do before. The people at that company didn't really understand me as an artist or how to support me. Plus, I didn't have a personal assistant with me at the time to say, okay, now she needs a 5-minute break to eat something. I had never learned how to say no. Because I thought it's hard to say no. I thought if I said no, everything would crumble around me, and then it'd be my fault if something didn't succeed. You know what I mean? So I tried to get away from everybody and say, look, no, I need some time for me. And they just didn't get that because it was so out of character for me.
Do you feel that you get as much credit as a singer, songwriter, and producer as, say, a male counterpart?
No. I don't want to be like, woe is me, but I mean, there's a certain stigma sort of attached to this whole diva thing that everybody likes to use now. And it's like most people who are technically divas don't write their songs, don't produce, and don't spend the time in the studio. And that's nothing against them, but usually when someone has a big voice, you don't really have to do that. But writing is like, 50% of what I love about making music, and I can't just write a song and then leave the studio. So I think if I had a guitar in my hand and was strumming it the whole time, people would be like, okay, singer-songwriter. But because I stand there looking, I guess, diva-esque, I don't think people think about it. But whatever. I'd rather be a girl, so. And I have been through some tough times, as have we all. But you know what? The thing that I tried to put into my music is the spirit of someone who stays with things and, makes it happen despite adversity. The songs like Hero or Through the Rain are about survival.
Right.
And that's what I'm all about. That's how I've gotten through my life. And music is something that has gotten me through every difficult situation. So Charmbracelet, this album, was just like my emotional release. Writing down everything I needed to say, singing from my heart, a healing process. So I look at this particular album as like, each song is sort of like a charm in its own way that represents something about me or something about my experiences. And the album is kind of the link that holds them all together, and it's something that I'm handing down to my fans, like passing on to my fans. I think one of the reasons I pushed myself so hard and worked so hard is because I never felt special. Like the one thing that made me feel special was my music. I didn't feel pretty. I didn't feel like I fit in with other kids because I really didn't. We didn't have a lot of money growing up at all. Sometimes I had to live with different friends of my mother, when we didn't have a place to stay. And the one thing that kept me focused and kept me going was this total belief in myself that I had to have in order to know, like, I'm going to get through this and I'm never going to...
And that belief was in your work?
In my work.
Not anything else?
In the singing, in the musicality.
To put it simply, Charmbracelet is quintessential Mariah Carey. If there's one word to describe this album, it's authentic. It feels more Mariah than some of her more commercially successful records, like an album that truly embodies who she is as an artist. It's early 2000s R&B at its best, showcasing her unmatched ability to blend hip-hop and R&B in ways only she can. The album is glamorous, dreamy, and draped in that signature Mariah aesthetic from start to finish. Where Glitter was a misunderstood experiment, a love letter to the 80s that never got its due credit, Charmbracelet felt like her first true step into the new millennium. It took elements she had a soft launch with Daydream, perfected with Butterfly, and expanded on with Rainbow, and brought them into a fresh, modern era. Mariah's first 3 albums are indisputably iconic. They lay the foundation for one of the most legendary careers in music history. But personally, I've always preferred Daydream and Beyond because that's when Mariah was finally able to make the music she truly wanted to make. It's not that she didn't want to make her earlier albums, but back then, she was heavily steered toward a specific adult contemporary pop sound. In simpler terms, she wasn't allowed to make anything that sounded too black.
In the beginning, I was like, yeah, I agree, I should be simple. But at a certain point, I was like, I really want to do something different with that hair. You know, like to wear another color other than a black dress. But, you know, they wanted to keep me the same way, and that's not fair to do to anybody because you grow and mature as an artist and as a person. And what happened with me was I just felt very stifled for a long period of time.
I think what you call the new Mariah is the Mariah that's always been there, that's just been kind of hiding behind those gowns and those different things that she...
The second she expressed a desire to work with hip-hop artists and producers, her label pulled her back in. Honestly, the fact that the Fantasy remix even got released was a miracle, but once she broke free, she never looked back. Had she not insisted on making the music she wanted to make, we might never have gotten Honey, Breakdown, Heartbreaker, or literally any of her post-2000 releases. Her ability to merge hip-hop and R&B with pop sensibilities wasn't just ahead of its time, it actively shaped modern pop music. If there's one unifying theme across this album, it's love, plain and simple. Considering everything she went through leading up to this moment, the public breakdown, the glitter disaster, being dropped by Virgin, and even the passing of her father, you'd expect this album to be dark, moody, and full of heartbreak. But instead, Mariah gave us something soft, delicate, and sentimental. It's her most personal album since Butterfly, and the 2 records actually share a lot of DNA. As I mentioned before, Charmbracelet is a return to the signature hip-hop and R&B fusion that she perfected in the late 90s with a lighter, more reflective approach. And that softer sound is mirrored in her vocals. One of the most noticeable things about Charmbracelet is Mariah's vocal delivery. She sings in a sultry, almost whisper-like tone throughout most of the record. I think her softer tone here adds another level of softness to the overall project. There's something intimate and delicate about it, which perfectly complements the sparkly Y2K era R&B and hip-hop production. It makes the album feel even more unique, despite being cut from the same cloth as her late 90s releases. In a way, Charmbracelet was Mariah reclaiming her artistic identity. At the time of Charmbracelet's release, many critics saw it as an attempt for Mariah to reclaim her core audience after the fallout for Glitter. The theory gained traction due to the album's quick turnaround. Just a little over a year after Glitter, which was released in September 2001, came Charmbracelet in December 2002. But honestly, Glitter was doomed from the start. Even if there hadn't been a media frenzy surrounding her personal life, the album's release date meant that the entertainment industry had ground to a halt. The last thing on people's minds was a new Mariah Carey album. But Charmbracelet was much more than just damage control or an attempt to remove Glitter from everyone's memories. It was Mariah doing what she's always done, moving forward, creating and expressing herself through music.
Let's see, the highlight of my musical career. There have been so many really nice things that have happened to me and that I've been blessed enormously to be able to do this for a living because I love making music so much, writing songs and singing songs and making music, producing records. I think one of the most rewarding things is when fans tell me that a song has helped them get through a difficult time. Like a lot of my fans have been telling me that this new song, Through the Rain, has helped them overcome different situations. And when I hear that as a songwriter, it really makes me feel very proud and feel like what I'm doing, has a purpose.
At the heart of the album is its opening track and lead single, Through the Rain, a song that encapsulates everything she had endured in the year prior. A sweeping R&B ballad, it was a stark contrast to the high-energy hip-hop infused lead singles that she had released before, like Loverboy, Honey, and Fantasy. It was also by far her most understated lead single to date. At the conception of Charmbracelet, Mariah's label and team wanted the album to be an almost back-to-basics situation, as they believed the public was still laughing at her after the glitter incident. The first action item on their list was for Mariah to write what they referred to as an I Will Survive-esque anthem of overcoming adversity. Mariah got to work, and the result was Through the Rain. Throughout the first years of her career, Mariah's music was largely pop-infused R&B, and her image reflected that, wholesome, reserved, and carefully curated. As she evolved, she pushed for more artistic control, integrating hip-hop influences and collaborating with rappers on remixes. Her music became bolder, sexier, and more youthful, distancing herself from the adult contemporary sound that initially made her a superstar. Because of this evolution, Through the Rain felt like a return to her early ballad-driven sound. Some saw it as an effort to reconnect with fans who had been with her since her Vision of Love days, while others felt it alienated those who had embraced her hip-hop influenced era. Through the Rain acted as a bridge, acknowledging the struggles of Mariah's past year while signaling a return to her roots. Despite its critical acclaim, Through the Rain underperformed commercially, peaking at 81 on the Billboard Hot 100, her first lead single to miss the top 40 in the US. Mind you, even Loverboy peaked at number 2. Through the Rain, however, did find success internationally. While Through the Rain didn't soar on the charts like her previous hits, its true impact wasn't in its numbers, it was in what it represented. It was a statement of resilience, a declaration that despite the setbacks, the scrutiny, and the personal struggles, Mariah was still here, still standing, and still singing her truth. The second track and single from Charmbracelet was the delightfully dreamy Boy I Need You, featuring Cameron. This song is peak early 2000s R&B and perfectly encapsulates the era's signature sound. The track is actually a reworked version of Cameron's song Oh Boy, which had been released earlier that year. Originally, Mariah had planned to release The One as the second single, but at the last minute, Boy I Need You was chosen instead. Mariah was so impressed with the production of Oh Boy that she personally pressed Cameron and Just Blaze, the producer of the track, to create something similar for her. However, after much back and forth with no real results, they ultimately convinced her to just recreate Oh Boy outright. Thus, Boy I Need You was born. Despite its undeniable appeal, the song didn't get the recognition it deserved, peaking at number 68 on the Billboard Hot R&B and Hip Hop Songs chart. It's honestly criminal how overlooked the song is, especially since it highlights Mariah's effortless ability to float over hip-hop infused R&B, a brand that, let's be real, she pioneered. Boy I Need You is by far one of my personal favorite songs by Mariah, exemplifying the overall vibe of Charmbracelet perfectly. Yours is another highlight, fully embracing the sparkling, glamorous R&B sound that defines Charmbracelet to me. A freshly solo Justin Timberlake was allegedly supposed to be involved with Yours, either on the original track or a remix. However, his label reportedly scrapped the collaboration because they didn't want Justin associated with Mariah, whose image at the time was still quote-unquote tainted by the glitter era.
Because I'm forever yours. I love you, New York. Thank you.
Lullaby feels like a spiritual successor to 4th of July from Butterfly, capturing that same ethereal floating on a cloud vibe, while Subtle Invitation brings in rich, soulful elements, showcasing Mariah's jazzier side. Another overlooked track on this album of overlooked tracks is You Got Me featuring Jay-Z and Freeway. The song marked a reunion for Mariah and Jay-Z after their 1999 smash Heartbreaker, yet it's barely ever talked about.
Okay, so what was going on between you and Eminem, if anything?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Look, I talked to him. I, have spoken to him a few times, whatever. But in terms of me having like an intimate relationship with men, I can name them all on one hand, and he ain't on the hand. Less than one hand, okay? He is not on the hand.
Yes, me and Mariah did have a relationship for about a good 6-7 months, something like that.
Wow. What happened?
It
just go bad or what?
Didn't work. I wasn't really into what she was into. Our personalities collided.
She didn't like animals?
She's a diva, and I'm not really. I'm a little more like regular, I guess, in the sense of, and I don't mean to put the down.
It doesn't sound like it at all.
Right. But because she can sing her ass off. You know what I'm saying? So I could never deny her talent. But the fact that she denied that we ever had something, that's bad. Well, I'll leave her alone. You know what I'm saying?
Around 2001, rumors swirled that Mariah and Eminem had a thing. Eminem, being Eminem, added fuel to the fire on his 2002 track, Superman, where he implied that Mariah wanted something serious while he wasn't interested. Then came Clown. The lyrics paint Eminem as an insecure liar whose private persona contradicts the image he puts out to the world, and in true Mariah fashion, she didn't need to name drop. She let the lyrics speak for themselves. Charmbracelet also marked the first time that Mariah cursed in a song, both in Clown and The One. However, in both cases, the words were censored. Because of this, the album was the first in her catalog to receive a parental advisory label in some territories. Producer Randy Jackson, yes, the American Idol judge, not Michael's brother, played a big role in Charmbracelet, collaborating with Mariah on My Saving Grace, Sunflowers for Alfred Roy, a deeply personal tribute to Mariah's father, who had recently passed away, and I Only Wanted. Randy was also the one who suggested Mariah cover Bringing on the Heartbreak, originally by Def Leppard. This was one of the few times Mariah leaned into a rock influence, and it worked surprisingly well. The song was released as the album's third and final single on June 2nd, 2003. Unfortunately, much like Boy I Need You, it didn't chart on the Hot 100. Ironically, the biggest hit from Charmbracelet didn't even come from the album itself. Mariah hopped on Busta Rhymes' song I Know What You Want, also featuring his Flip Mode Squad. The song was a massive hit, peaking at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. For Mariah, it was a return to form after a string of underperforming singles.
Sometimes I'm tired and I just don't feel like talking anymore and I just want to go to sleep. And sometimes, the fun person that you see on TV, that's really me. Like, I enjoy life. I love life. I'm blessed to have the life I live. Mariah, please. I'll see you next time in Spain, okay? When? Soon I'm going to do a tour and all things of that nature. So we're leaving Barcelona now. Though we'd love to stay here, we've got to go. And I'm not quite sure where we're going, but we're going somewhere. And we're going to meet back up with you soon, okay? Enjoy the night. I feel like sometimes you have to go through really difficult times to get to your best work. And I think to a lot of artists, pain inspires music. I'm in a really good place in my life and now I feel happy. I feel like everything that happens in life happens for a reason, and like the lessons I learn are all things that were put in front of me for a reason. But I think the immediate goal is to just enjoy life and to appreciate, just being here.
As I mentioned throughout this series, the Charmbracelet era was designed as a back-to-basics reset, both sonically and visually. While I truly believe that Mariah didn't approach this album as damage control, it's clear that the industry saw it that way. Let's not forget, music is a business, and everything about this era, from her image to her interviews, was meticulously crafted to ease her back into public favor, even down to her hair, which was often styled this era and a more curly fashion to evoke nostalgia of her earliest looks. This wasn't just an album rollout, it was a subtle reintroduction. She was also encouraged to be more open in interviews, talking candidly about the passing of her father, her public breakdown, and the fallout from Glitter. The hope was that by humanizing herself, by appearing vulnerable and relatable, the public might finally see her beyond the diva persona. And to her credit, Mariah leaned in. There's a level of honesty in her interviews from this time that's both refreshing and heartbreaking. She wasn't hiding it, she was owning it. Despite her efforts, Charmbracelet debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200 with 241,000 copies sold in its first week. Respectable, but not the commercial comeback Island Def Jam had hoped for. The album quickly fell off the charts, and its lead single, Through the Rain, became her lowest charting lead to date. Boy I Need You didn't even make the Hot 100 or the bubbling underchart. With the album stalling, the label pushed Mariah to hit the road. Historically, she hasn't toured as extensively as her peers, but the Charmbracelet tour became her most ambitious run yet, with 69 shows over 8 months. Outside of touring, Mariah worked overtime during this era. TV specials, award shows, talk show appearances, you name it, she did it. She was quite literally everywhere during this period. For an album the public supposedly didn't care about, the push behind Charmbracelet was pretty extensive. 2 of the 3 singles failed to chart, the lead single underperformed, and yet Mariah kept going well into 2004. Most labels would have shelved the era after that second single tanked. Despite performing most of the album on television appearances, the tour itself only had maybe 3 or 4 cuts from the album itself. In the end, Charmbracelet went platinum in the US, selling just over 1.1 million copies and 4.5 million worldwide. Not a flop, but definitely underwhelming for someone of Mariah's caliber. And that's what stings, because for Mariah, this album was personal. It was her first step forward after one of the darkest chapters of her life. But the industry didn't care. Critics were lukewarm, the public was indifferent, even though Charmbracelet is arguably one of the most Mariah albums she's ever made, in my opinion. Warm, glamorous, soulful, it got overlooked. Now I can understand why people didn't get Glitter. It was a sonic departure, a full-blown 80s pastiche. But Charmbracelet, this is textbook Mariah Carey. Her vocals, her writing, her heart, it's all here. And yet the world didn't show up for it. Not because it wasn't good, but because people had already written her off. The more time I spend with this record, the more frustrated I get on Mariah's behalf. Originally, I ranked Charmbracelet as number 6 in my personal Mariah album ranking. After revisiting it for this series, it might honestly be my top 5. It's a gorgeous record. And speaking of gorgeous, this woman was absolutely stunning in 2003 and 2004. Of course, Mariah Carey has always been gorgeous, but Charmbracelet specifically is just absolutely wow. Still, this was her second consecutive album to be dismissed by critics and ignored by the American public. People had bought into the narrative. Mariah Carey was done. She was a relic of the 90s, washed up, irrelevant. And honestly, it's a miracle we still have Mariah today in the way that we do. Another artist might have disappeared or given up. She was tired, she was wounded, but she still had some fight left in her. Her back was against the wall, and honestly at this point she had nothing to lose. Nobody, not the public, not the industry, not even Mariah herself could have predicted what would happen next. Looking back now, Charmbracelet is such a fascinating moment in her story. It's the bridge between the disaster of Glitter and the triumph of what came next. It's soft, reflective, and elegant, a calm, gentle breath before the storm. Truly the prelude to her emancipation.
I came to have a party.